Alright guys, this is Miss Maz again. The final thing I was going to show you for writing the DBQ is the sample essays. So the one that I'm showing you first is the one that would be a really good essay. It would be an A+ essay, almost the best you can write. The only thing I want to point out here, and I've already marked it up, is that I would have hoped they had indented the paragraphs, because paragraphs should be indented, but when this one was typed, it wasn't indented. And also, when you go to college, you're not going to want to write like this. You're going to want to format your paper the way the teacher tells you to format the paper, and it should be done in 12-point Times New Roman font and probably double spaced. And you should probably have your name written at the top. It should have like Candace Mazza, British Lit, what the assignment is, and the date. So try to work on setting your paper up correctly when you type it in an MLA type way. I will try to put an example of how your paper should be set up in the box also with the instructions. So just kind of look at that, and that's how you would type your paper, and it'll kind of prepare you for college. But anyway, in this paper, you always want to make sure, if you remember back, the funnel introductions, you start with a hook, you start with a bridge, and then a thesis. So on this paper, you want to make sure you have your hook, which I have highlighted here, your hook. And then you want to put a little bit of background information because you're writing about Macbeth, so they need to know what you're writing about and what the story's about. You need your bridge that leads to your thesis. So this person's paper says, "From politics to the playground, mankind's struggle for control is timeless. Shakespeare's Macbeth is the story of a man who aspires to be king and attains his goal, but meets his downfall in the end. On several occasions, Macbeth relies on prophecies made by 3 witches known as the Weird Sisters. He also is heavily influenced by his wife. This raises the question of whether Macbeth is primarily responsible for determining the course of events throughout the play." That right there is kind of like your bridge into your thesis there. And it kind of sets it up. It's giving background information about the story, but also telling you about his influences. It's going to lead you to write in your paper about the people that influenced Macbeth's decisions. So it says the answer is a resounding yes. Although the Weird Sisters and Lady Macbeth have some control over events in the play, Macbeth has the most control and is ultimately the master of his own destiny. What sets this essay apart from the other essays is that they took that chicken foot. They didn't use a generic chicken foot. They didn't use the one I gave you. They made up their own. They reworded it. So that makes this a better paper. And the more explanations also makes it a better paper because it looks like they actually know the story and they're able to explain it very well. So then they said the Weird Sisters have some control over events in the play, as they are the goddesses of destiny according to Old English mythology. And you make sure that you go in and you tell about which document that is. So here you got document A. And it says their original prophecy that Macbeth will become king is the root of all subsequent events in the play. Again, they cited document A. Later, the prophecies by the Weird Sisters' apparitions all come true. Macduff, because he is not technically of woman born, is the one who slays Macbeth, and Macbeth is indeed vanquished when Birnam Wood comes to Dunsinane. And again, they cited that with documents D and E. From Act 1 through Act 5, everything that the Weird Sisters say will happen to Macbeth actually does come to pass. So you always want to make sure, yes, even though you put citations there, you have to explain those citations, and it can be one sentence, as you see here where I typed or wrote down the final explanation. All right, then they did just like our buckets, and they went into the paragraph with Lady Macbeth, and they said Lady Macbeth also has some control over events in the play. As soon as she learns of the prophecy that Macbeth will become king, she questions her husband's ability to take advantage of this opportunity. When Macbeth wavers, Lady Macbeth stands firm. By challenging his manhood, Lady Macbeth manipulates Macbeth into killing Duncan so that he can become king, and more importantly to her, she can become queen. She states, "But screw your courage to the sticking place and will not fail." That's them quoting document B. Again, make sure you see that they are citing the document. She also prepares the murder weapons and helps Macbeth frame the guards when he is unable to do so. She says, "Give me the daggers." And this is in document C. It is true that Macbeth acts alone in ordering the murders of Banquo and Macduff's family after ascending the throne. However, without Lady Macbeth's help and influence, it's unlikely that Macbeth would have been on that throne in the first place. Again, you got to explain why you use the quotes. And then finally, you got the last body paragraph about Macbeth. So it says, nevertheless, Macbeth has the most control over events in the play. Immediately after the Weird Sisters hail him as king, Macbeth admits to having black and deep desires. When Malcolm is named the heir to the throne, in document A, also Macbeth, not his wife, kills Duncan. Lady Macbeth may shame to wear a heart so white, but she also says, my hands are of your color. This is a reminder that Macbeth's hands are covered in Duncan's blood because he is the king's true murderer. Finally, Macduff kills Macbeth because it was Macbeth who had Macduff's entire family killed, and Macduff is seeking revenge. Perhaps there would have been no reason to beware Macduff if Macbeth hadn't provoked Macduff's wrath by killing his family, if you remember that. And that's documents D and E. Macbeth might not have murdered Duncan without his wife's assistance or targeted Macduff's family without the Weird Sisters warning him to beware Macduff, but ultimately he is the one who takes the extreme actions. Moreover, it is precisely these actions that lead to his own downfall. And if you remember, I told you, even though people influence Macbeth, you are always your own person and you have to decide what you do. And Macbeth, although he was influenced, ultimately he made his own decisions. And then just to conclude their paragraph, they said, with Macbeth, Shakespeare raises interesting questions regarding the power of destiny versus individual free will. Although fate, as personified by the Weird Sisters and Lady Macbeth's influence, may have pointed Macbeth in a certain direction, the major events in the play would not have occurred without his stir. Macbeth is the one who kills Duncan and orders the killing of Macduff's family. As Macbeth himself says, I have done the deed, document C. So this is your A+ paper. So if you want a good paper to go by, this is the best paper to go by. All right, and I'll show you the next two papers in a second.